Hey people, today I'm going to show you how to field strip your Remington 1187 police model. It's your standard police issue, no upgrades other than what Remington provided. So let's go. First, obviously check, make sure the gun's not loaded, and it's not. Nothing in the magazine tube. Close the bolt. And right here, there's a flathead screw. You need to undo that. Be careful not to scratch the finish. Nobody likes scratches on their firearms. Set that screw aside, and this just slides up. And lay that aside. Next, undo the magazine extension. Sometimes this can be a bugger. There we go. And keep your hand and push down on this because it's under a lot of spring pressure. There we go. And it just comes right out. Pull your spring out. And then your forearm. That just slides forward. Careful, there's a metal piece that goes in the stock. If you notice, it's got a cup shape to it. So in your stock, this is, or your forearm, this is the front. You want the cup facing the receiver. So go to the part that's on the receiver and slide that back in. It's almost like on a track. And I don't think you can see it, but I see it. Yeah, it's right there. Slide it all the way back till it's flush. It's almost like got a wall there. Just leave it in there. Now, barrel removal. Pull the bolt back. Sometimes this can be stiff. Sometimes the barrel just pulls off. There we go. And oh, it took the O-ring with it. So I guess my arm's fine. I just cleaned and lubed with TW25B weapon grease. So that's what all that white stuff is. Your O-ring would actually usually be down here. There's a little notch in your magazine tube. That O-ring's usually in that notch. Just pull it forward off the tube. And then you have your two gas seals, or pistons, should I say. I think I moved this way too much. I will clean that off. Alright. You notice it's got a funny shape to the first one. It's got a tapered end. That tapered end faces the receiver. Then you've got the piston. This has a tapered inside portion, and then the other side is flat. It's got like a groove on the top there. The tapered portion faces away from the receiver. So these two mate up together. They fit inside each other and make one big piston. So remember that. Then you can, here's the safer part, release the bolt, but hold the bolt back and slowly let it come up. Alright. Grab a hold of your charge handle and yank it out. And sometimes that's really difficult. Then I like to push back on this just a little bit. Push back on the action just a bit to release the tension. Stick your finger up inside the, what they call the ramp, or the, I forget what it's called, but anyway, thing that pushes the next round up into the chamber. You stick your finger up in there, and on the side of the ejection port, you can feel on right about here on the inside, there's this little tab that you can push in. Feel the tab, it's right up forward. Push that in, and then pull the bolt out. Pull the whole thing out, careful, because the bolt can fall, so pull it out level, and it'll come right off. And the bolt just lifts right out. You know, make sure that everything's clean and debris free. Check your firing pin, make sure it's not broken, bent, or the spring, the firing pin return spring. If that's broken, you can have a problem called slam fire, basically turning your gun into a full auto shotgun, which you do not want. You don't need the ATF knocking at your door. Double check that your extractor works perfectly, smoothly. Oh, another thing, there is a plastic bushing around the back of the bolt, around the firing pin. It's called your buffer. That's got to be, it's usually chewed up. That's okay. It's meant to be. To take all the shock when this bolt slams into the back of the receiver. If you don't have that, if it's broken, bad things happen. So mine's chewed up, but this isn't a brand new gun. So, but it's not broken. Good to go. Set all that aside. Now, remove the trigger assembly. I just put it on my knees like that. Take a small screwdriver. Be careful not to mar the finish of your gun. And tap pretty lightly so you don't pop the thing all the way out and lose it. And the pin will start to come out. There you go. That's one pin. There's two of them. One big, one small. There we go. Oh, screwdriver's too big. I have a pair of tweezers that I feed the snakes with. This works fine. And then just pull that pin out. There we go. So just those two pins. And then the trigger assembly comes out as one unit. Alright. Now, I don't recommend taking this apart at all. Just recommend making sure that nothing looks broken or ultra fouled. I do this. I'm not going to say to do it, but brake cleaner, preferably non-chlorinated, to clean out all the old crap, dirt, unburnt powder, whatever. Clean it, flush it out, and then let it dry off. Maybe hit it with an air hose, and then light misting of oil on all the components. Make sure it's not soaking wet and dripping. You don't want that. This one's fine. It's greased. Now inside of the receiver, you're going to see that thing. Sometimes that's a pain in the butt. But you just careful when you stick your hands inside this receiver, do not touch the ends, the sides, because the rails in there have very sharp edges and it will slice you open. So try to be delicate and push this forward, and it usually drops out of the gun. If not, it'll dangle there. Just turn it 90 degrees and pull out. And that is a completely empty gun. Now to put it back together, you notice this is your, I don't really know what it's called, but this is what cycles the gun. There's a spring in the stock, and this is what pushes on it. So it's got a bow in it. That bow faces the top of the receiver. So the bow faces up. So push this back in. Make sure you get it inside the rails where it's supposed to go. And then a pair of needle nose pliers or tweezers. Grab the two, pinch them together, and fit them back into the cup. There's a cup right there. You can see the cup right here. A little shiny piece of metal right there. Those two fingers have to fit down in there. You can even push on it and you can feel the resistance. Now, take your trigger assembly delicately, slide it back up into the receiver. Sometimes it's a tight fit. I have a better luck doing it from this side. There we go. Pull back, make sure the holes are lined up. You can kind of see through there. And this one's not. I always put the bottom pin in first. Doesn't matter which side you do it from. You just go in with your fingers. You don't need any tools to get them in. There's the bottom one in, or the back one. Line up the other hole. Take your smaller pin, push that through. Sometimes it's nice to wiggle the trigger assembly. There we go, good whack. And it's in. The small one's a bugger. Take the back of my screwdriver handle. There we go. Now trigger assembly is back in. You can see the main spring thing. Don't know what it's called, but you can push on that. Make sure it's not catched up on anything. Take your action bar. Don't know what it's called. Fit your bolt back on top of it. Make sure your locking lug is down where it's supposed to be. There we go. Nice and level. Fit your action bar back on top where it's supposed to go. Test it. When the bolt slides back, the lug should come up. Goes forward, lug goes down. Alright. Slide that back on. You gotta push that button again, makes it easier to get in. And you can hear it click when it gets into position. And that won't come out. Take your charge handle, make sure you put it in the proper direction. There's a taper and a notch that faces the trigger. So slide it back into its groove. Give it a little whack. Back in place. Pull the bolt back. Now, back to the pistons. See again, one end is cupped and tapered, the other end is flat. The flat end faces your action. So put that back on. The other piston or gas ring or whatever the hell they call this is a tapered end, faces the piston, so they fit inside of each other. Slide that on, and they create one unit. Now I would imagine trying to make the gas rings, the notches, the actual splits in them, I would imagine it'd be best to have them not lined up. You probably want them staggered a bit. I'll turn mine 180 degrees. Put it back in. Now maybe that's not necessary, but I'm used to cars and you never have piston rings, the gaps line up. You never want to do that. Take your O-ring, check it for cracks, splits, whatever. If it's broken, replace it. Slide it back on. Be careful. And fit it back into its little notch there. Barrel. Slide the barrel back on over the gas tube. Be gentle. You don't want to screw up that O-ring. There we go. And then force the barrel down until it stops. There we go. Now, I like to hold the end of the barrel. Pull the bolt back, release the bolt, and slowly let it forward to make sure it seats that O-ring where it's supposed to be without damaging it. And then pull it back. Take your forearm, slide it. The barrel kind of has a groove that it can track on. Slide it back forward. There we go. Tap on a little bit. Magazine spring. I didn't take the follower out of the magazine. I should have, but I didn't. That just falls out. This is a pain in the butt. Hold that down in there as much as you can. A lot of that spring will fit inside the extension. There. Hold it down and turn it back on. You don't have to get it on too tight. It's got a detent. It'll just lock in place. Try not to make it so you can't get it off by hand. Take your support. Slides back on. Now if you notice, there is a groove on the magazine tube extension. You're going to slide this down right lined up with that groove because this screw fits inside that. And then take your screwdriver and screw it back in. Sometimes it's a bugger to line up, especially with flatheads. There we go. Really good squeeze. Not too tight. Test the gun. you go. And that is it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks.